ever knew what it was I actually wanted. So I was chasing something that I think, it's like your perfect Instagram highlights, isn't it? You see these things and you think, oh, they must be really successful because they're on lovely holidays, they've got the nice car, they're doing all of these lovely things. And I think we just subconsciously tell ourselves that that is success. But for me, I realised it was actually the really small things that made me feel happy. It was those really small things that actually made me feel successful.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Welcome back, everyone. So I have Emma Hine with me today, and I can't wait to talk to Emma because we have so much in common in terms of what we stand for. Emma is a business growth strategist, and she helps people design their business to create the life that they actually want, a business that sustains that life, not consumes it, which is music to my ears. Emma, a huge welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely amazing to be here, Lucy. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. Two of us talking about the same thing. This is going to be fun.
I know. I love that. And I love that about this space because there's something for everyone, right? And the way you and I ultimately have the same vision of what we want for people, but we'll come at it in our own different ways with our own different personality spins on it. And I just really, really love that. So I can't wait for this conversation because normally I'm talking to people who do something completely different and how, so I'm so excited about this. And so Emma, I know like me that this business and what you do has come from your own lived experience and your own journey. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely. So, going back when I was little, I was in corporate and I wanted more. And when I say more, it wasn't necessarily more in terms of more money. It was more in terms of more freedom, more flexibility, more opportunities to just be me rather than to be an employee number, which is sometimes how you feel when you're in corporate. So I thought, do you know what? Your own business, that's the way that you get this freedom, this flexibility. I will start my own business, which is what I did. And the business grew quite quickly. Before we know it, we've got a big team, we've got big premises, we've got all of the things. And I'm turning over in excess of £1 million a year. And so the business became financially successful. But during that process, what I didn't realize was happening was it was consuming me. It was consuming my life. It was taking away even more of that freedom and flexibility that I actually wanted to have. It made me unhappy. It made me depressed. It made me all of these things. But externally, everything looked absolutely perfect.
Yeah. I can relate to this so much. And this is, as I'm sure with you, the people we talk to often have a version of that. And it's like, well, everybody says, but you're so successful and you have this and you have that, but they don't understand how it feels. And I also think that sometimes some people I've spoken to have even said to me, I feel like a fraud because people are telling me I am this and this, and I don't feel like I am that. They're not aligned. But I guess then that has something to do with perception of success and what people believe that is, because it may look like that to one person, but isn't to another person. So, what did you realize that success wasn't for you?
I think for me, it took me a long time. I mean, I ran that business for, it was about 15, 16 years. And probably for 10 years of that, I was consumed within it. I was completely consumed within it. So it took me a long time to realize I just believed that success would happen at some point. The harder I worked, the more money that I was making, at some point, I was just going to feel happy and all of those things. But I don't think I ever knew what it was I actually wanted. So I was chasing something that I think, it's like your perfect Instagram highlights, isn't it? You see these things and you think, oh, they must be really successful because they're on lovely holidays, they've got the nice car, they're doing all of these lovely things. And I think we just subconsciously tell ourselves that is success. So in my head, I think I was just thinking at some point that would happen. But what I actually realised that, to me, success, and I didn't realize this until I made the decision to walk away from that business and then to spend what felt like a lifetime of actually analyzing everything that I'd done. But for me, I realized it was actually the really small things that made me feel happy. It was those really small things that actually made me feel successful. So, a friend ringing me up on a random Tuesday and saying, do you want to come for coffee on Wednesday? And just being able to say yes to that, that is what I wanted right at the beginning. Yet there's no way I could have done that. You'd have to have booked in 4 weeks on Friday at 2:00 and you've got a 15-minute slot prior to that. So for me, I think it just made me realise that success is individual. And I am not against making money. I love to spend money. I still love nice things. I'm not against that at all. But I think it just made me realise there's different ways of getting whatever it is you want to get to. And I think it's okay to have a different opinion to the next person.
100%. You can have money and freedom. You can, and I think it's an and thing. Like I'm exactly the same. I am far from anti-money. I'm pro-money because I believe that more of it that we can control, especially as women. I think more women need to have more money. But I think that the more money we can control, the more impact we can have, the more good we can do, the more, whether it's getting a message out there, whether it's changing the world in some way, like it takes money to do good. So you can definitely do more when you have it. I hear you. I think there have been times when I have actually felt like almost envious of a stay-at-home mum and thought, imagine, I know some actually stay-at-home mums where they don't need to work. They're very financially comfortable, and the husband typically is the one that makes the money when they're set, basically. And a stay-at-home mum that is free to go and have coffee whenever they like, go and take that yoga class, or being there for all the kids' things. And sometimes I think, oh, that just sounds like bliss. Like that just sounds so peaceful. I've never wanted that because I've always had so much ambition. There was a point in the past where I was about to make quite a big move in business, and my husband stopped me and he went, just before you go ahead with this, you don't have to, like you don't, he says, I know you're going to do whatever you want to do, but you don't have to. And I was like, it literally took me like 3 seconds. I went, thank you. I hear you. I'm doing it anyway. And because for me, life is for living and I love a challenge and I, and want to do more. But don't get me wrong, there are still days that I go, oh, and the thing I crave, the freedom I crave, will be likened to that of a stay-at-home wife and mum that doesn't need to worry about anything financial. But the point being is you can actually have both if you set things up right from the beginning. If you know that that's a value, if you know that that's the freedom you want to create, they are the small things, but then great. Don't create a business that locks you into a 60-hour-a-week job. And this is what you are great at, with making things simple and systemized so that you can have that kind of freedom. Talk to me about that.
Exactly that. And you touched on something there. One of the things that I've always, one of my dreams has always been to spend lots of time in Spain. I love Spain. When we had the old business, we bought the villa in Spain, the dream villa, the pool, all of the things that you've got in there. We were never able to use it properly. I was never able to spend time properly using that villa. So it wasn't about the villa. It was about everything else that would enable me to spend that time there. Now I go and spend 8 weeks out in Spain and I can still do my job. So I built the business differently to make it happen. So I just wanted to touch on that there. Say you can always have what you want, but it's actually really getting clear on what it actually is. I always ask my clients, I'm like a little toddler saying why, because I think we always have to dive into that. You want this, why? What is that going to give you? Because that tends to be the bit that helps you design. So going back to the question, sorry. I think for me, it is when we talk about systems, we're not just talking about tech here. We're not just talking about systems that are driven by tech.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that involves you doing something the same over and over again is a system. And that can quite often be human led, just the same as it can be system led. So we're talking about your processes as well as your tech setup, whatever it is you've got that you need to send your emails to your clients, whatever it is you've got. So for me, I think it's about keeping that as simple as you can, but as effective as you can. So if there is a process that you are doing over and over again, you need to have some sort of system in place to automate that for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying automate the personalized pieces, because they are the bits that you are probably going to really enjoy doing, and I think you need to be doing. But if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you need a system that does it for you for two reasons. One, that's going to save you time. And two, it's going to ensure that there's consistency, and consistency is going to make a much better customer experience. And also it's going to mean you don't accidentally forget to do something in the process, whether that is following up with leads, because if you miss them, they're going to go elsewhere, or whether that is sending the right contracts, or whatever it is that sits and looks like. So having your systems there to actually support you rather than to become things that are actually hard work, to me, are really, really important. And I think any business can have the right systems in place. And what I would always do when I'm working with clients is we would look at the systems that they have got in place, and we would look where they have, let's call it string and sellotape, where they have had something that works, something's broken, so they've just attached something else to it, tied it on with a nice pretty bow and thought that'll keep going. Eventually you're just putting more sellotape and string on top of more sellotape and string. So sometimes you just have to do that. Look out, look in, and see what you can do to fix. So we simplify everything and automate where we can.
I love that. And yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly that we can drop balls with the, human error. And when we run our own businesses, if we're sick, if we can't work, no one's going to do our job for us if we don't have these kinds of things in place. So I think it's making sure you're foolproofing those kinds of things, like you say, so that you can then step in and do the bits that are the pure human you things that no tech can replace. And I think that's the magic, that's the sweet spot. It's not all one way or the other. And actually, one of my clients, when he came to me, he was literally running around firefighting everything and was miserable, but he was the first in his family and even in his network socially to have a great business, or even a business. So he wasn't surrounded by anyone that could even give him any guidance. So I'm like, my gosh, this business is gonna kill you. And that's a story that I have that's passed on to me. My dad basically died of entrepreneurial lifestyle disease when he was just 49, like a month after his 49th birthday. And I've seen firsthand how your ambition can literally kill you if you don't put this infrastructure around you. And it changes as we grow, because what worked at one point won't work further down the line, which is why you see people who boom and bust and and they feel like they're starting all over again. So I love the simple, supportive, systemized things that then allow us to go and flourish and fly and do what we do best. Beautiful.
And do the things we enjoy, because I think what I think helps you to build your business is putting you in the position of doing the things that you are best at, of course, the thing that you are magical at, and that is always going to be the client work, isn't it? That's what you do. So to take you out of some of the other stuff, whether it's via systems or other people doing that stuff for you, is going to free you up to do the stuff that you are really good at. That's going to make you feel so much better. You're going to enjoy what you do much more. And the more you enjoy something, the more you work on it, you do it consistently. And what happens when you're consistent? You grow. So, simplifying is not about shrinking. It's not about doing it smaller. It is about finding ways that make it easier for you so you can then grow, because you can focus on the things that are going to get you the growth rather than mending things that are constantly breaking down.
Or getting stuck in that cycle where, again, another one I see very frequently is that, pedaling really hard to generate the revenue, the marketing, the clients and what have you, to them being so busy servicing them, looking after them, you forget to then peddle the marketing piece, and then so you're in this sort of feast and famine cycle, which leads, like you said before, to burnout, to misery, to I've created a monster, to quite often subconscious self-sabotage, because you don't even know you're doing it, but you end up finding a way to just mess it all up.
And then you start looking inward, don't you? Then you start thinking, well, it must be me. It must be something I'm doing wrong. So then you've got the self-doubt, and it's a vicious old circle, isn't it?
It is. It's a minefield. And I think especially because a lot of people go into entrepreneurship alone, and they start from scratch. And I have so much admiration for that. But then, and you can't afford at the beginning, you can't afford big teams, you can't afford expert mentors. So you have to climb a little bit of a ladder there and take it step by step. So yeah, I think keeping it really simple in the early days, and then layering things on to support that growth. Definitely. But like you said before, though, and this is something I say all the time, is it's starting with the end in mind. Like, why are you doing it? What is it for? Are you just creating yourself a glorified job? Or, what does done look like? That's what I often ask. What does done look like? Are you doing this forever, or do you have an end game?
Exactly. And that's quite a hard thing for people to do, isn't it? To actually be honest with themselves in terms of, my process that I take my clients through always starts with the dream. So it always starts with, what is it that you want your life to look like? What is it you are trying to create? Because we can design something to make that happen. But actually doing that is quite hard, because I personally found, when I did this, when I walked away from my other business and thought, actually, this is time for me to build this for what I want rather than what I think I should be doing type thing. And it was quite emotional, because I was having to be honest with myself, and actually to dream without limitations is scary, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think if you have knocks along the way, it can set you back, and who you spend time with. If you're surrounded by, if incoming is constantly like, yeah, right, that's, pie in the sky kind of, wouldn't everyone, la la la. If you've got that kind of running commentary, it kind of keeps you small. Whereas being surrounded by people that actually go, okay, yeah, amazing, why not? Like, anything's possible if you can think it can be. So I think that's really important. The environments you put yourself in, and
Absolutely.
conversations that you have.
Yeah, the people that you surround yourself with make such a difference, don't they? Whether they are people that you're spending time with at home, whether that's people that you're spending time with in terms of your clients. We get to choose our clients too, don't we? It's not just about people choosing to work with us. We also get to choose who we want to work with. And, for me, my values are a massive thing. And if my values aren't matched up, I can't work with people, either as their coach, mentee, whatever you want to call me, or them as my coach or mentee. It's things like that I think you have to constantly remind yourself, because if you suddenly start working with people that really don't light you up, you're not going to give them your best. You're not going to leave, that situation feeling great. They're not going to leave feeling great, because they're not going to get the best out of you. So that to me is part of getting clear on the dream, the people, as much as, all of the other stuff that you want to, surround yourself with.
Yeah. So just taking back to where you said you'd built, because I know there'll be people listening going, wait, you built something really successful outside looking in, didn't feel it on the inside. But what I would love to explore is, was there any resistance around, but it does well as an entity, it brings in money, it just generating good money, it's a successful thing, it's making me miserable? Because there will be people who would go, well, can't you just suck it up and keep going? Like, but I know, I'm with you, I know, but I know there'll be people that are like, but what because there are options of Absolutely. It's walk away, it could be sell, it could be putting someone else in control of it, which is something I've done with one of my businesses. It's like it's still there, but I've moved myself, and there's lots of that. And yet a past one, actually I had the same thing, we sold the business. So it's knowing there are options. But what did you feel like, because that's where I get like, God, I want to know how you felt. Like, what did you feel like about it? And how did you come to that decision?
as I say, it was a long time. It was virtually 10 years from when I realised that something wasn't quite right,
Yeah.
to when I actually made that decision to say, I just cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
And yes, those things did go through my head in terms of, you could sell the business, you could look at changing the business. But I was just at that point where I couldn't give it another day of my life, never mind, 6, 12 months, whatever it was going to take to go through, a sales process or a bringing people in to help and support and train them type process. I just didn't have another day
Yeah.
to give. And what I had learned is that I'd sort of gone really down to the depths of the bottom in terms of my own mental health with the business, and then started to come back up the other side. And it was when I was coming back up the other side that I was stronger, that I made that decision. And I know that if I hadn't have made that decision, I wouldn't have continued going up that path. I'd have gone back right down into, the depths of where I was. And I attempted to take my own life when I was in the depths of that business. I was so unhappy. I was so afraid I was going to go back down there. I had to make a radical decision. But that came with fear. I had no plan B. The business supported my entire household, so to speak. So there was no plan B. There was no sort of like backup plan. If this went wrong, what do we do instead? There was, what are people going to think? Everybody's going to, all the rumors are going to start circulating around the village. She must have gone bump. She must, all of that. And all of that was playing really heavy on me. But I just knew that if I wanted to stay alive, I had to do something radical. And for me, and I'm not advocating to just walk away from a business, but for me, it was the only option. And I don't have any regrets when I sit and look back, but it was a massive decision. And I don't know. It took me 10 years to make it, let's be honest.
Oh, well, but it's all part of your journey. It's all part of your story. I always feel that way. If ever I find a bump in the road or something challenging, which, as I always say, is absolutely inevitable, you're going to have bumps in the road. I always try to go, okay, this is part of the story. This is part of the journey. Like I remember saying it to somebody at a business retreat recently who was having a really tough dip. And I just said to her, I was like, I know it's really tough right now, but this is part of your story. You're going to be on stage speaking about this in the future, of how that happened this is part of the journey. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but trust that. And it is, and I love that you say, like, no regrets. Like, it's all, I say the same. Like, what I've had businesses I've sailed, so I always say scaled and sold, and businesses that have failed and I have folded. And I say that now with absolutely no shame, because I know that's what makes me good at what I do today. But at the time, when things go wrong, you think, no one can know about this. What will they think? The fear of all of that. Most of the time, they're not even looking, and they're minding their own business anyway. And even if they are, like, I always think people are going to judge and make their own opinions anyway. So you can't control them. We can't control what other people think, say, or believe. All we can do is our own thing, right? So but that does come with a lot of resilience and a lot of walking through those tough things. So I do look so compassionately upon anyone that's built anything successful, because I know there's no way they got there without huge sacrifice, without pain, without moments of, in whatever way, wanting to give up. There's no way. It just doesn't come that easy, not for anybody. And it's so easy to judge, especially for people to judge when it's so far out of their reach. So it's easier to just tear down. And I think we pick a hard path for ourselves as entrepreneurs. But you came from corporate, like, as you said. So, like, why do you ever think that was easier?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. But it wasn't what I wanted. And when I walked away from that business, going back to corporate was never something that I put on the table. It was not what I wanted to go back to. I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I kept repeating over and over again is, I want to help people to be happy in business, because there must be a way to be happy in business. I at that point, my business was e-commerce, so it was very much online, but I consider it very different to the online world that I now know. I didn't know this world existed of people that actually worked collaboratively, that people actually helped and supported each other. For me, my business was very much me and me. I mean, I got my husband because he was in the business with me, but, generally that business was very much about, it was me. It was me who had to do all the things. It was me on my own. I had to make the decisions. And yes, in corporate there was coaches, but I didn't realize that was something that could flow over into a business. I thought that was something you had in corporate, but in business you just got on with it and you did all of the things. And all of these other people that I see looking successful, and I say that word because who knows if they really feel it, are doing what I'm doing. They're in the trenches, they're getting the hands dirty, they're doing all of the work, and eventually, it all sort of pulls itself together. If I'd have known that, things may have been differently. But as you just said, I honestly believe that I went through what I went through to enable me to do what I do now, to be able to help other people, to hopefully prevent other people having to go that far in terms of, building a business that doesn't light them up, that doesn't give them the joy. And I also believe that timing was the right for me. I honestly believe that things happen for a reason. And, I'm going to take a deep breath before I say this bit, but in 2023, my life changed completely when I lost my daughter. Hence, that's why I take the deep breath. But if I hadn't have made the decision I made at the end of 2020, I probably wouldn't be here now either, because it was a timing thing. I wouldn't have been mentally able to cope with, what I had to cope with when we lost Becky. So I think timing is also, I could have walked away from that business sooner. I could have sold that business. I could have done all the things. But I honestly believe that I have a purpose in life, and that purpose is to help other people. And I needed to have all of those ups and downs to enable me to be strong and resilient, and to be able to not just say these things, but actually to have that lived experience and understanding when other people come to us and they're in those trenches and we can help to dig them out.
Honestly, Emma, that's huge. I'm so sorry. Like, nobody should have to go through that. And honestly, you're incredible, because to keep going at times like that and through such great loss, I think it's so derailing. And I do hope you did take some time for yourself and took care of yourself.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Like, and and yes, I know firsthand that time is a healer, but it never goes away. It's never okay. But especially when you have your own business, the buck does stop with you. This is all the more reason why we need to create businesses that sustain us to live as human beings, whether it's through grief or through growth. Like, to be able to do that with a business that can sustain that, not consume us to the point that we don't even have room to feel like. And it happens far too often, and ambitious people suffer the harder falls because they set the bar high and don't have that kind of, whether it's people, like you said, whether it's systems people, how you've set it up, it is difficult. And I think, wow, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm sort of being taken aback because that's
sorry.
No,
sorry, I mean to throw that in there. I just think it's
so real, though.
It is, and I think that's. I mean, the thing that has really taught me, I'd sort of started to learn this by walking away from the other business, but the thing that has really, really has taught me is that what you have today is the only guarantee that you have in life. Tomorrow could look completely different, and it doesn't, I'm not talking just, becoming poorly, losing people. Anything can happen that could change your world completely overnight. So what you don't want to be doing is to reach that point and think, oh, I wish I'd, or I could have, or, So for me, it gave me even more fire in my belly to actually realize that this is my meshes, this is my mission. And, I am in a fortunate position that I can help other people to do something differently. Yeah. And if something happens in life, you've got you can at least sit here and say, I've done what I wanted to do. You know, life is so precious, it is so short, and we just don't know what tomorrow brings. So we need to be enjoying today. And I think that's an important thing, isn't it?
100%. That hourglass on my shelf behind me is a representation of that. It's like you never know when that thing is gonna just run out. You don't know how long you have. And I think you're saying what I say about, you know, you want to make it count and make it matter. Otherwise why, you know? And I think when you're wired the way we are and the way our audience is, and we're entrepreneurial and we want to make things happen. There's an element of that anyway, but I do see a correlation of this with people who have lost people very close to them suddenly and unexpectedly, or in any way, but that massive, I think I once heard Brendan Burchard call it mortality motivation. I'm not going to claim that as mine. I'm sure it was him that I heard say that. And I get that. Like, it's a thing because it really brings home how limited we are, like what we're here, how long we're here for and what we're here for. And I always use the phrase, I want to live the heck out of life. Like, that's always been the way I say it. And it's like, well, I want it to be extraordinary. I don't want it to just be a thing that you mumble through and survive and then it's done. Like, it's got to matter. I want it to have an impact and do something. And I think, I know that will resonate with our audience because we're the doers of the world. But yeah, especially having that ability to create something that can sustain you in all those times, that's vital.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a pattern, and I think there are a lot of people that have these traits as a personality traits of go-getting and determination, have often got bits in their story and in their journey that fuel that. And like you say, that all we have is actually now. And making now count. So if you were to fast forward to now and in your now, what do you feel is your, like, if you could get a megaphone and you're like, this is what I want people to know, like, this is the thing, hear it today. Like, what do you feel like your core message is?
I think for me, it's very much about, you can have what you want. There is always a way for you to actually live the dream. It shouldn't be a dream, but, and this is a big but, you have to make that happen. It doesn't just happen by magic. It absolutely doesn't. You know, you have to be taking action, but you have to be taking the right action. What you do needs to be intentional. And to do that, you've got to be completely honest with yourself, what it is you actually want. Don't work on the shoulds and coulds and maybes and they've got, so I think I fancy a bit of that. You've just got to be completely honest with what is it you want, because you can, and absolutely can, make it happen, but you've got to do the work. You've absolutely got to do the work to get there. For me, I always say, dream business, dream life, you can have it all.
Yes to that. My version of that is leverage your business, love your life. Same thing, different words.
Exactly.
But that's what I love about us, is that we have got such a synergistic philosophy, and you do have to do the work. And I think, have you seen this? I do think there has been a bit of a wave, or maybe, I don't know if it's a generational thing or if I think there's a little bit of a correlation with the pandemic, the false economy that came up, alongside the huge rise and boom on social media and TikTok, and consuming all these highlight reels of wonder. And I think that a lot of people have gone into business thinking it's a lot easier than it is. I'm not suggesting it's hard. I think but it's not a set up an Instagram account or a website and suddenly, like, make money. Like, great. Yeah. And no matter how much you can say that to somebody, I do think that people do have still a little unrealistic expectation there. And I think that then they end up falling by the wayside or either stepping up or stepping out. And either's fine, because again, realize if it's for you or not, make your own decisions. But do you see that as well? like a
Definitely, definitely.
yeah.
I mean, I started my first business back in 2006. So I've sort of seen lots of different things happen. And this is nothing new. You know, what we are
Mm,
experiencing now, you know, everybody's saying, oh, it's so hard in business right now. It's no harder than it's ever been. It's just that things have to be done differently now. And
yeah,
we have to evolve as the world is evolving.
yeah,
And people are comparing becoming a new business online now within the 2020-2021, when
yeah.
it was absolutely the time for people to launch a business and make money
Hmm.
in 2020-2021, because people wanted something to do and the only thing they could do was sit at a laptop and
Yeah,
do things. And I'm not knocking that, you know, I'm not knocking that at all, but actually it's not as easy in that sense now, but you can
mm,
still build a business from
yeah.
nothing right now,
Just
exactly the same,
differently.
just
Yeah,
differently. You've got to
yeah.
do things differently. You've got to work differently. You've got to behave differently. The
Hmm.
people that go through all of these things in business, and you will
Yeah,
know this, are the people that adapt and change and do things differently. I saw so
yeah.
many businesses in our old industry launch, make some money, then disappear because they
Yeah.
realize that it's not actually as easy as they think. You've got to
No.
have resilience, haven't you? You've got to be prepared to, you know, to do what you do. And what we are helping people to do is do that in the easiest possible way.
And not many businesses can just be created in one way and work forever, like, I don't know, like a supermarket. I mean, it's kind
Yeah,
of straightforward. They have had to adapt and change. They did have to move,
absolutely.
delivery, and the technology is there. But there aren't really many examples of a business where that's what it is. It's always done that way and it's never going to change. I'm thinking now maybe a fruit and veg shop, but God, there's not many.
Well,
So
even they've had to change in a certain
yeah,
way, haven't they?
true.
You know,
Suppliers
certain
and
suppliers, you know,
yeah,
people probably want things delivering that they didn't before, or you know, they need to start selling it online. You know,
yeah.
people do have to change because they've had the supermarkets come and do, you know, what was Aldi doing at Christmas? Was it 9p, 5p, whatever, for all of your key vegetables and things? The
Yeah.
fruit and veg shops have got to adapt to that. Doesn't mean there isn't a space for them, but they've got to
Mm.
find a way to adapt to that, haven't they?
And I think some people really require such a certain level of certainty that it's too, the idea of uncertainty or that level of uncertainty is too much for them. And I think you've got to be comfortable with it. The more you can be comfortable with uncertainty, the more likely you are to thrive and to ride out those waves, because they're gonna come, they're just gonna happen. And business, I'm thinking back to like my businesses in 2001 to then the pandemic, whole different ball game. The way it's structured, the way you market, the way everything happens, and it there's the one thing you can count on for sure is it will have to change, and it's having the adaptability and the eye on these things to know how to then make the shifts and evolve and move with the times. Yeah, it's only going to happen more, and I think really rapidly over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think when people create something that's just for the now, they may be on a little bandwagon for a bit and then they're gone, but that's okay. Like I see it now. There are certain things with AI at the moment that it's like, that's got a shelf life. They're making an absolute ton right now, but they're riding a little gravy train that's going to end soon, and good for them. That's great, but I would want the next plan in place. Be thinking
Exactly. Yeah.
bigger. So it's fine, but just know that it's not. It's not going to last forever. But yeah, I think that is such a really important thing that people probably underestimate until they have done at least 5 years
Mhm.
and seen things change, because it's
You need to
inevitable.
see a cycle, don't you? You need to see
Hmm.
that cycle of, you know, of change in whatever industry you're in. It does change. It absolutely does change. And we change too. And I think
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing, is it? You know, we grow. We have a knock that makes us see things differently. You know, we are
Yeah.
constantly changing too. So our business needs to change with us. And I think that's why it's important to have all of those foundations and things in place, isn't it? So they are
Hmm.
robust, that when you are ready to change, one, you can see it because you're not so busy doing the do, so to speak. You've actually got
Hmm.
that time to sit and look outside into your business, but also
Yeah.
so you can actually adapt and know that it's not all going to fall apart underneath you.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, such wisdom. I love it. I love this conversation, Emma, and I know that you and I could talk all day long about these things because we have so much in common with this. But for our listeners, I will share the links in the show notes so they can come and check you out and all the wonderful things that you do. Do you have any closing message that you would like to leave our listeners with today?
I think I'm just going to repeat what I've probably already said a few times, which
repetition is key.
You know, absolutely, you can have what you want. You just need to design it the way that you want it to be, and then you need to go and get it.
Go and get it, everyone. You heard it. I want you to go and get it. Thank you so much, Emma, for being with us today.
My pleasure. I have loved our conversation.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright because you were born to be brilliant.